Very good afternoon to everyone. Thanks for joining in. So we're starting off with our HR Speak Live today with Mr. Debashish Dutta. And first of all, I'm going to go do a very quick introduction. Debashish, welcome to our HR Speak Live. Thank you for accepting our invitation for this.
Thank you so much, Zubin. Thank you for the opportunity.
So what I'll do is I'll very quickly give an introduction of Debashish. However, I'll also go into asking Debashish about himself as well. There's so much. I was just doing a little bit of research, Debashish, starting from your LinkedIn profile. I went into some of your websites, and there's much more to you than what is stated on the screen right now. So, by the way, Debashish is the Global Director and Head of PRM at State Street HCL Services. And, I was just looking at which are the organizations that Debashish worked in. So, he's worked with Credit Suisse, with RBS, ABN AMRO, HSBC, GE. He's got a couple of decades of experience, more than 20 years. And he's a certified Six Sigma Green Belt from G Capital. That's good to know. And also, there's the other side. I've been interviewing a lot of professionals in this HR Speak, and I did not have this slide for anyone else because I did not find this other side for anyone else. So I thought I'll let everyone know. By the way, so Debashish is a professional natural history photographer and has been recognized by BBC Earth, Nikon India, Nikon Asia, and he has been extensively featured in mainstream Indian media with coverage in Glad Rags, Indian Express Indulge, Deccan Chronicle, Asian Age, DNA, CEO India, Fever 104 FM and 94.3 Radio 1 FM. So I'm sure we're going to know about both sides of Debashish today, from the professional aspect as well as this other side that I'm talking about. So, Debashish, let us start off with our discussion, and I think it's important for us to know from you about yourself professionally. I've just given like an overview, but do let us know about yourself a little bit more, both professionally and personally.
Thank you, Zubin. Very kind of you. I think you are very effusive in your greetings, in your introduction of your guests. So I'm once again very happy and thank you, for the opportunity. And I must congratulate you and your entire team because everything was really managed very well, very smoothly, and I think it's a great reflection on you and your team. So, like I was telling you before the session, that I don't want to make it boring by giving like a, normal introduction that people generally do. And we are also required to do that on and off because of our work. But the way I would like to put it is because, obviously, it is also an opportunity for me to share with your audience how I have reached where I have reached in life. So I do a lot of hiring interviews for leadership level as well, and then at times I am part of a board for interviewing slightly more junior but very very important middle layer of management of the organization. So I look for things which have worked for me as well. So for instance, when I started my career in 1999 with a startup, egurukul.com, that in itself, when I look back, I thank God, was a great opportunity because in the very first role that I had there, I had the opportunity to work on business plans because it was a startup in those days, and it was led by two very, very promising, enterprising young men themselves, one from IIT Delhi, one from IIM Kolkata. And it gave me the opportunity to sit and discuss business plans with private equity players in those days, and very prominent ones like, Chrysalis Capital, IFC Worldwide. So what I noticed very early in my managers, and I'm talking about 1999, was that passion is very, very important. if I am not passionate, if I have not discovered myself, what is it that clicks for me? Uh, Professional life after a point in time becomes boring. You lose out on the steam, you lose out on the energy. It's not the same. So, therefore, it's very, very important if you want to do professionally well to maintain a very high degree of passion. And you can do that by first getting to know you. I cannot be a good manager if I don't know myself and I'm trying to know 10 other people, maybe who are working in my team. So I noticed these things in my very first set of stakeholders. And then from eGurukul, which went on to become one of India's most successful .com startups, uh, I was exploring what I wanted to do, and so I again joined a couple of small startups. But soon enough, I found myself in GE Capital, getting into core financial services, and there I was handling a industrial collections function, and it was great exposure because GE as a company, and in those days it was not Genpact, it was GE. So the entire DNA was GE, and everything was centered on Six Sigma and process improvement. And what I've understood from that experience, and then later in HSBC as well, that a lot of people make the mistake of running after certifications, right? The key is to understand what is Six Sigma. Because if you understand what is Six Sigma, if you understand what is the main theme that it stands on, which is minimizing process variance, then you can beat a lot of people who have the certification, because a lot of people go through the motion, right? And they will try and get certification. But what happens is, when you work in a place like GE, and of course you have to put in your own effort, they will instill in you Six Sigma in a manner that you will never forget in your life. So after working in GE, I moved on to HSBC. So from Gurgaon, I went to Vishakhapatnam, and again in HSBC, I was there for a couple of years. And though I worked for a while in operations, my bent was towards quality compliance. I was starting to, sort of identify where I want to be. So HSBC in those days was trying to, initiate the setting up of the Six Sigma COE. And I had the great privilege of working with Mr. A.V. Hari, who had come in from GE himself, GE Power Systems, and he's like one of India's, foundations, so to speak, in the Six Sigma world. So it was a great opportunity, and I was installed as the Six Sigma black belt for that site, HSBC site in Vishakhapatnam. So it was a great experience working with Mr. Hari to set up the Six Sigma COE of HSBC out of Hyderabad. Now, when I was almost about to complete 2 years in HSBC, call it good luck, or a good turn of events, I was asked to appear for an interview with ABN AMRO Bank, front office retail banking. And I always wanted to move into the front office of the banking world, because that is where you get to meet the clients, you get to meet the product guys, you get to meet the regulator. So it's a huge difference, when you are part of the team that's actually running the business, that's responsible for the balance sheet. So I joined HSBC, I joined ABN AMRO Retail Banking in September of 2006 as an assistant vice president, responsible for service quality and compliance, because around the time that I had joined, RBI was setting up a body called BCSBI, Banking Codes and Standards Board of India. So if today you open a bank account, or you take a credit card from a bank, you will get a document called the Code of Bank's Commitment to Customers. It's a mandatory enclosure that will come with your welcome kit. So in 2006 to 2008 beginning, that was the time that RBI had given every bank to put in the BCSBI infrastructure. And I can tell you very clearly that in those days too, it sounds like those days, we had a budget of 28 lakh rupees to put into place the entire BCSBI infrastructure. So that was a great experience, doing the entire project management and ensuring that the code of bank's commitment to customers is set up for all the products, all the branches, and then get ready for an inspection by RBI officials. So that was great. Then I also was responsible for managing client loyalty, client engagement, service compliance. So that was a great exposure because, like I mentioned, I was interacting with the regulators right from day one almost, and I was part of the management team of the bank. So it gave me good opportunity to get even deeper in senior stakeholder management. How do you make presentations? It's not just making, but actually presenting the presentation. How do you interact? And I would just like to add once again here that the more you are yourself, the more comfortable you will be. So I have never been, overawed by the fact that I'm talking to the consumer banking head, and my bosses today are some of India's best known bankers, right? The head of IndusInd Bank, the head of RBL Bank, the head of DBS Bank in India, Development Bank of Singapore, a lot of colleagues in Bank of America's front office banking in India. So I never had any challenges in interacting with very senior stakeholders because I was my own person. I knew what I want to say. I had a mind of my own to speak. I would ask the questions which I believed I should ask. And of course, I would also always prepare myself, read about the subject, and not hesitate in asking questions. And I would also like to mention that it's very important for us to prepare for something. It might be a session with a senior stakeholder. It might be even a session like this. So I went through the PPT that Zubin had very kindly said, familiarizing myself with the chapter in Kolkata, NHRDN, and then logically structuring, okay, what is this going to be about? So when you go prepared and you believe in yourself and you discover your self confidence early on, managing your career becomes a lot easier. So while I was in ABN AMRO, the news started coming in that Royal Bank of Scotland, along with Fortis Bank of Holland, as well as Santander of Spain, was trying to acquire ABN AMRO worldwide. And soon enough, that happened. We were acquired globally by the Royal Bank of Scotland, and from ABN AMRO, we became the Royal Bank of Scotland in India. And when RBS came, the three lines of defense structure became more formalized in India. And I started, heading the first line of defense, or what you call as the business process control function for the entire business in India. So across ABN AMRO and RBS, I spent 9 years in front office banking. And then in the month of August of 2015, I had by then successfully gone through almost 6 months of interviews with Credit Suisse. It's a very, very well-known bank, Swiss bank, extremely challenging interviews, and you have to be patient. They check your patience levels, which is why there are so many rounds, and they also obviously are trying to grill you as well. So I, was hired by Credit Suisse to head a brand new controls oversight function for another brand new function called Risk Finance Data Analytics and Reporting, which was a completely investment banking focused function. And I was in Credit Suisse for a little over approximately 2.5 years. And then I had a planned break, like, Zubin has mentioned. So I'm also a professional natural history photographer. And I had planned 2, 3 years back that, that time is coming when I would like to take a little bit of a break from the corporate world, recharge my batteries, and use the time also to travel to Africa and set up my website. And because I was very keen on investing some much needed time, energy, and money in the other career that I have. And so November 2017 is when I left Credit Suisse. and I did some traveling to Africa, then to some other national parks in India. Because I really wanted to take a break. It had been a very tough, challenging, decade and a half, 17 years almost, and I really wanted a break. I wanted to do something different for a while. And then once I was back in India, and I felt like my batteries are recharged, I reached out to a couple of consultants, and soon enough, I got a call from State Street HCL Services. And I think within a week, I was hired to head their operational risk management. Now, State Street is America's second oldest bank. It's more than 200 years old. It has been into every form of banking that exists on this planet. But as of today, it is the world's largest custodian bank primarily, with $34.5 trillion dollars of assets under management. It also provides extensive investment management services, end-to-end reconciliation services, fund management, fund accounting, hedge fund administration. So the entire capital market processes is what State Street is focused on these days, over and above its presence as the world's largest custodian bank. So I have been with them almost 2 years. It's been when I joined, the headcount was just about 3,150. But today, in just about 2 years, we are almost about to cross 7,000. So it's like doubled. And therefore, the organizational changes have also been enormous. Now we have also implemented the three lines of defense fully. So I have moved on to head enterprise risk management. We have a business controls team separately. We have a third line of defense, which is internal audit. It's been extremely demanding. I think in my a little over 20, in fact, it will be 21 years, I think this is one of my toughest roles in terms of the sheer growth and the need to manage such a big organization. And businesses which are spread throughout the world. It's been very challenging, but with a very good team and interesting set of colleagues who themselves are very experienced. Every big bank on the planet you can name, my colleagues would have worked in one or the other or more. So that's the professional side. Personally, I'm a Bengali, but I'm what you call a Probashi Bengali. So I was not born in Bengal, not brought up in Bengal. I was born in Banaras, born in Patna, Bihar, brought up in Banaras. Went to St. John's School, very privileged. Happy that I went to such a good school because my school gave me the confidence and the communication skills and a very sort of pride of place in my life because I have such great alumni. My batchmates have done so well. My seniors are amongst some of the most well-known corporate leaders, even in places like Google. So the schooling was great, and then I went to BHU, did my bachelor's in commerce, specializing in financial accounting and statistics. Then I went to the ICFI Business School in Ahmedabad to do my MBA. Again, finance being the core, finance and marketing. Uh, but along the same time, when I was growing up, and I saw the way my dad had his career, the way my uncles and paternal and maternal uncles had their careers, I was very clear that I don't want to just do one thing in my life. I don't want to be one dimensional. I just don't want to go to office every day, come back, watch a bit of TV, eat, sleep. No, I want to make a lot more out of my life. So I was very keen on two of my passions in life. One is music, the other is passion for wildlife and conservation. So music, I've made a fair bit of progress, but I've not been able to sort of focus on it continuously. In fact, to share with all of you, I've also been to Farhan Akhtar's studio for one audition back in 2014 because I write, I compose, I arrange. But yeah, my time has been more taken up by wildlife because I'm extremely passionate. It's a little over It's going to be 13 years since I started shooting professionally, and I shoot across India and Africa. And along the way, I've got recognition from BBC Earth, Nikon Asia, Nikon India. And this year has been extremely special because I have been featured in the very prestigious Africa Geographic Photographer of the Year 2020 contest. Uh, it's absolutely amongst the topmost wildlife photography contests in the world, and you got to have many years of hard work. I think nothing comes without hard work and smart work, and I realized this when my work got featured this year, that unless and until you reach a certain level of photography, you will not be able to make a cut in contests of this level and scale. So over to you, Zubin.
All right. Thank you so much, Debashish, for that introduction. Let me first of all ask you a few questions from a professional perspective.
Yeah.
Um, uh, all right. So, in the last 5 years,
Hmm.
that's the part that I would like to ask you first in terms of enterprise risk management. Most of our audience here would be from a human resource management background.
Hmm.
We have professionals attending our program right now, as well as students.
Hmm.
And therefore, my question to you in terms of enterprise risk management, could you explain in layman's language, like briefly, just an introduction to what it is for our understanding?
I'm so glad you asked this question, Zubin, because this is what I ask in my interviews, even to senior pros. See, enterprise risk management is a very simple thing. You have a house, it's an enterprise for you, right? So you think about how much money you are getting in every month, right? Accordingly, you budget. You've got your kids, you have to pay for school fee, you got to earn, you got to bring in the ration, right? You got to pay your bills. Now, what happens when you don't get that much money? You find yourself in fiscal deficit, as the government says, right? You earn so much, but your expenditure is more. So you are in a fiscal risk. So managing your house becomes a challenge. Now, you've got a house. When you leave the house, what do? You ensure all the locks are in place. Why? Because you don't want burglars to break in. So you are taking care of the facility risk. When you step out, if you're stepping out for a long period of time, like if I'm going traveling abroad for a longer period of time, I ensure that I disconnect all the power and all of that. So again, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to ensure that my infrastructure, my enterprise, that is my house, does not suffer any problems because of a short circuit or whatever. So enterprise risk management is a very simple thing. It's managing the risks that you face in life. So when you go out, right, you're driving on the road. So you buy a car for yourself. Why does a car manufacturer have multiple variants? So if you look at the most basic model, it will not have airbags, it will not have ABS. But as you start going up and the prices start going up, you will get a vehicle which the manufacturer says is much safer. Why? Because it has got airbags all around, it has got anti-lock brake system, it has got better ABCD. So you buy that car. Okay, buying that car in itself will not take care of the entire risk, right? Because even the best of cars can have accidents. But by putting airbags, by putting ABS, what you're trying to do is you're putting in controls. So you had an inherent risk. What is the inherent risk? The inherent risk is that the moment you step onto the road, there can be a possibility of an accident, right? So what you're trying to do is you're trying to cover yourself in a good car. And that car has controls. It has got airbags, it has got anti-lock braking system. So what you're doing is by putting controls, you are reducing your inherent risk. So inherent risk minus controls is residual risk. So as we know that we might take a lot of precautions, but there still might be that slight percentage of the risk still persisting. Now, in some cases, the residual risk might be very low, and in some cases, in spite of your best efforts, the residual risk might not be low. So, to give you an example, last year we had a burglary at the neighbor's place, right? The neighbor had two doors, a wooden door and an iron door. The builder only gave the wooden door. For the safety and precaution, for enhanced safety and precaution, the neighbor also put a iron door, right? So the neighbor tried to reduce the risk by putting in more controls, but still the burglars were able to get in. So even though you put in controls, and putting in a control has two parts. So designing a control. So you put a good wooden door, you put a good iron door, you did the best that you could, right? But when the burglars came and they started hammering, your controls did not operate effectively. So the doors broke open and the burglars were able to get in. So enterprise risk management is nothing but managing the inherent. In everything, there is an inherent risk, right? I step out of the house, something might fall on my head from a floor which is above mine, right? Something might just drop. That is an inherent risk, and I cannot mitigate that risk. There are a lot of areas close to my house where there are constructions going on. A couple of weeks ago, a crane fell down. Now, some people were standing. Luckily, no one died, but nobody was expecting the crane to fall down, but it fell because of some problem, right? So, enterprise risk management is nothing but managing the risks which are inherent in any organization. For you, the organization you can consider as your home, right? And then you try to put controls. Okay, I will try to ensure that I earn this much money so that I am able to pay all my bills and expenses, right? So that way you know that when the bills come, you are able to pay and nobody is calling you for reminding that your bills are pending. And after you've put in the controls, in some cases, the residual risks will be minimized, but there would still be some cases where the residual risk would still be high and you're helpless, you cannot do anything about them. Exactly the same happens in the corporate world. Because if you see a company as big as ours, we have very stringent, very elaborate business continuity processes. But who knew that COVID will come? So suddenly, when you thought that your residual risks are low because your BCP infrastructure is so good, COVID came and suddenly you found yourself running everywhere because COVID came in with circumstances which nobody could predict. And that's true of every country, the most modern countries to countries like ours. So this is what enterprise risk management is the entire journey of understanding inherent risks, putting in controls, and then analyzing what the residual risks are, and accordingly taking measures to minimize the residual risks further.
All right. I'm really happy to hear this because the way you explained, I think anybody would understand what this is. And I'm so happy to hear the examples. Of course, I'm not happy to hear about the burglary, etc.
Yeah,
But I do understand. That residual risk would always be there. We cannot
always be there.
mitigate 100% of it.
Always
In
be
fact,
there.
there are risks which, like you said, COVID. Nobody even thought about it, right? So we
Absolutely.
can't predict.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll give you another example. I go to the jungles, right? I indemnify the government. I know there is a risk. I know there is a risk, but I still go. And while going, I try to put in enough controls to minimize the risk. But I have been able to minimize, not zeroize the risk. The risk is still there in some shape and form.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So what I would ask next would be about leadership. Since you've spent a significant amount of time in your career in certain roles where I believe leadership skills must have played a role. And I'm not only talking about career growth, etc. I'm talking about dealing with situations. There are certain experiences that you must have had where you had to use your leadership skills. And These could be leadership skills not only at work, and since you were talking about so many different examples, I would keep this question open in terms of experience and what to learn from that experience. So, can you share an experience where you had to use your leadership skills, and what did you learn from it? And it could be, any experience at all that you can think of. That would be perhaps the best example for us to learn
Right.
from it.
So, Zubin, very important question, and thank you for asking. The way I look at leadership, Zubin, is if I'm not able to have fun at work or fun wherever I am, how can I be a good leader? My people need to enjoy working with me. How will they enjoy working with me? They will enjoy, per my experience and per my understanding, is, there's a word called mojo, M-O-J-O. Everyone should spend some time, and that spending of time should be much earlier in life, to find what is your mojo. Right? When you find your mojo, like, over the years, I've seen so many colleagues tell me that, they get bored at work and they get bored at home also. So, which is why a lot of people will say, we hang around an office because what to do after going home. It's the same thing every day. The problem is, because you've not found your mojo, you don't really know what to do with the time that you have outside office. Okay, office is something that you have to come, you have to earn your bread, you have to earn a living. But when you come to work with that mindset that I'm coming because I have to earn a living, then the quality of experience and the quality of your output is not going to be the same as when you are coming in thinking and believing that I'm coming here to make my presence felt. That mojo really chisels your personality, enables people around you to see who you are actually. So a lot of my colleagues, and I've always worked with multinationals, barring few small experiences here and there. So I've got colleagues in most of the major cities in the world, and I get called in sessions like this very often, Zubin, a lot of times just to talk about things outside work. Because it's a challenge for a lot of leaders to motivate their people. And I believe you really cannot motivate a person unless and until a person finds that point of motivation within himself or herself. You can try and show the way, but the journey has to be still taken by the concerned person, right? So, because I have that school of thought, and I was able to discover my mojo very early on in my life, and I feel blessed for that. I always, whether it is work, whether it's home, it's the same person. It's there used to be a time when people would say there's a personal life, there's a professional life, you should be like this in office. No, I'm exactly the same whether I'm at home or I'm at work. So when you are yourself and you lead by example, so when I tell my people to exceed, to excel, I lead by example by showing them my successes in multiple spheres in life. So that tells them that, yeah, our boss is not just talking, right? And the most amazing experience, Zubin, is the current COVID pandemic. As an organization, one beauty of our DNA is that we never treat a BCP as an excuse. So typically what happens is in the industry, it's a prevalent practice that for a BCP scenario, you have a calibration of your businesses, that okay, if tomorrow I have a BCP situation, this business will get platinum level treatment, this will get gold, this will get silver, this will get bronze. We treat everyone equally, and we find ways and means of ensuring that every business gets the same treatment, which is why even in the hardest of BCP situations, like we have seen cyclones in Chennai, we had the parliamentary election last year, and now we have COVID, right? We had 4 days been to move in the 4 locations that we are present in India, work from office to work from home. That involved even managers arranging vehicles to transport the necessary computer infrastructure to the homes of employees. So, my people will not do that if they are not able to see the vision, if they are not enthused about why are we doing this. So when they see the result of a 99% meeting of the SLA, they understand that the effort that was made has been well worth it, because the clients start writing and comparing us to some of their other service providers, not just in India but abroad. That COVID or no COVID, our SLAs are still at 99. People are working round the clock. There have been days I haven't gone to sleep because there is so much work and so much to manage, right from, to give you an example, I talked about the computer infrastructure. You have to foresee as a leader. So we also know there are going to be power cuts. So what do? We arrange for UPSs, and we ensured the UPSs were transported to the residence of employees. We replaced thousands of desktops with laptops. So you are engaging with vendors who themselves are very constrained given the situation. You are interacting with such a large chunk of employees. You have multiple command center calls in just one day. And you are there leading from the front, and you maintain a very high level energy, and you're constantly showing the big picture to your client. And then when the end client of the end client, see, I am working for State Street. State Street has the world's topmost investment managers, pension managers as its clients, right? So when we do well, State Street is able to hold its head high. And then the end clients start writing that, we are so amazed that even in a COVID-like global pandemic situation, our SLAs are being met day after day. And if at all there is some challenge, we get prior notice, right? Which means we have a very strong communication infrastructure, plan, and execution in place. My CEO calls me an execution champion. That's written on top of my resume. That's because I lead the execution in a manner which is as meticulous as it is in the document. And I always believed in working with speed so that I don't have to rush at the nth hour, and I don't have to force my people to also stay awake every night. So when you plan well and you work with speed, you lead from the front, show high energy, show the big picture, people understand, people fall in line. And this doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to build credibility. But when you start doing and showing things to people, and when you have so many people in the organization, they start believing in you. So leadership is all about demonstrating the values that you talk about. It's about displaying the same high level of energy and motivation that you expect your people to have. And to me, leadership is all about also being as frank as you can be. I have told some of my team members that, look, it's very clear you're not enjoying this role. You should find another role so that not only do you do justice to yourself, but also do justice to the organization that you're working for. You should not take a salary just like that. It's not a good reflection of your integrity. If you're taking a salary, then you should also give your 100%, because remember, this salary is keeping your kitchen going. So you should be grateful for the fact that you're getting this salary. Because if you don't want to do a job properly and you're not meeting my expectations well, you will not be allowed to stay. Because I would like to give this opportunity to someone who's more deserving. So very basic, all about demonstration, communication, and being absolutely clear as to what your expectations are.
All right. Thank you so much. I think that was an in-depth answer that we got from you for that question. A lot of things that that you mentioned in terms of examples as well. And from the challenges that we've been discussing right now, I also wanted to know a little bit about a memorable moment that you could remember. Something happy, something good that happened to you in your career.
So Zubin, again, fortunate, blessed that there have been there have been quite a few such moments, and very recently, I just want to say talk about what has happened very recently, and that was a citation that came in from our APAC CRO, Chief Risk Officer. Uh, Commending on the way we have managed ERM in these trying times. And very clearly, coming from an APAC scenario, CRO who's such a senior person himself, for him to take the time out and, write all the points, which means he has put in the effort of, really taking inputs from the India CRO about what we are doing, how we are doing, taking examples. Risk management is all about evidence, right? Without evidence, it's no good. So when earlier this month I got the citation for myself and my team, and that went to the CEO, India CEO of HCL State Street Services, the India CEO and CRO of State Street India. It was a matter of deep satisfaction, because my team members also saw with their own eyes what happens when you work like champions. I tell my team always, if you have to play, play like Virat Kohli. Don't play like someone who's not known. You need to have the right balance of aggression and enthusiasm and passion and energy. Like they say, Gina hai to, I always tell my team members about the three J's: Josh, Jazba, and Junoon. If you don't have these three J's, you might as well sit at home. It's no point stepping out.
I think you're inculcating some of those three in all of us today with all your experiences. All right. In fact, I wanted to ask you, what do you do when you're not working? But I kind of one of the things I really noticed, and I really want to know about you, and I'm sure everyone in the audience wants to know about you in terms of the other side, the part about photography. So I saw that you have this venture called From Dawn to Dusk.
Yeah.
So getting to know about this venture from you would be a real privilege. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about this?
Right.
What
So
inspired you?
Right. So Zubin, since I was a kid, I was extremely passionate about nature and wildlife. Very, very passionate. And over the years, as we started growing up and we started getting access to Animal Planet and National Geographic, and we obviously grew up reading Kenneth Anderson, Jim Corbett, Colonel J.H. Patterson, all those things. I always wanted to get involved with wildlife. So one of the best ways to get involved with wildlife is to get into photography. But my photography has a purpose, because using my photography, I also go to schools to tell children they are the next generation. Because unfortunately, if I was a little child today, I would look back and say that my forefathers have damaged the planet extensively. So I go to schools, I talk to, I go to a LinkedIn local forum. I would talk to adults and kids alike about what biodiversity is, what is an ecosystem, what these animals are all about. And unfortunately, because today most people are so cut off from nature, they live in a concrete jungle. All that they get to see is concrete, right? School, college, everything is concrete. Where they live in is concrete, and then they are spending so much of screen time, laptop, mobile, tab, iPad, whatever. So through my photographs, I try and reach out to people to invoke the latent love for nature that every human being is born with. In fact, closer home to Kolkata, I have a great bunch of buddies in Sundarbans, and I've been watching very closely the destruction due to Amphan. So I'm very clued on to what's happening there. So I have a fair few people who love wildlife and who buy my frames. So all the photographs that I shoot, you if you have seen my website, it's called www.fromdawntodusk.in. It's a end-to-end e-commerce portal. You can go, you can buy the photograph, you can buy the photo with the photo frame, and in fact, I'm sure all of you know Miss Nana Lal Kidwai, who's India's ex head of HSBC. In fact, she has given me a written endorsement as well. It's there on my website. And in her house in Delhi, two of my frames are adorning her walls, and which is a you know uh, great feeling. And then I am also using uh, building on my photography. I've recently launched another portal called returntothejungles.com, because I have so much of corporate network now that I am trying to raise funds for various biodiversity projects that are going across India. So the portal actually provides a listing of biodiversity projects, and then whichever animal or whichever area you are motivated by, you can go and you can contribute. And it was launched recently in the month of March, and in the month of March, in fact, I was in Tanzania. And the day I returned, within the next 2 or 3 days, the lockdown announcement started coming. So I had a lot of promotions planned up for my return to the jungles platform, but those have become very slow at this point in time because of the COVID situation. We cannot step out. So my plan is to go to a lot of corporates and talk to people, and obviously leverage my network to get people to invest. Sorry, invest is the wrong word. Fund a lot of these biodiversity projects. And the happy thing is that because of the long-term relationships that I've built over 20 years, a lot of colleagues, a lot of friends, they want to contribute to what I call as repairing of nature and environment. And in fact, over these last 2 months, we have been very involved in raising funds for the unorganized sector of our forests. The guards, the drivers, and we have been able to raise quite a bit of money, and we've been able to hand over the money to them so that they can take care of their day-to-day ration and requirements and wants, because they don't get a regular salary like you and I do. So that's also something that I am very deeply involved in. And photography, I mean, again, over 12 years, obviously, wildlife photography is something that requires a lot of investment, time, effort, equipment. But if you're passionate about the subject, then things fall into place. So I traveled to Africa. I did as recently as March 2020, and I travel across India. So Africa and India are my two focus areas, and photography is something that I'm always working on. In fact, there are a couple of big projects that I'm currently working on. So the corporate life and the photography life, everything is going on side by side. And if you have the will and the desire and the passion and the three J's, you can make it all happen.
So you're mentioning about the return to the jungles project, and you're talking about the three J's as well. So I thought, let me ask you, and I was trying to understand what inspires you to do so much. You said that you're balancing your professional life as well as the photography part as well. Um, and there are two things I want to ask. One is, of course, what really that one thing that inspires you to do this. And second is, can you tell a little bit about photography, about how do you do wildlife photography? For example, I have no idea. I'm an absolute novice in this. So if you were to tell me what inspires you to do a project like this, and what is it about wildlife photography? Maybe a couple of points that you would want somebody like us, people like us who do not have any idea at all how to do it. I'm not talking about technical aspects, but I don't know. I'm just open to hearing you.
So, in fact, Zubin, one thing that I forgot to tell all of you about Return to the Jungles is that one part of this project is raising funds, but the other very big part is what I've called as the sacred growth. So if you go to my site, you will see stuff written about sacred growth. Sacred growth is about uh, getting the people involved with afforestation. Chopping of forests is deforestation. Trying to revive forests is afforestation. So we are going to be organizing drives whereby, Zubin, suppose I go to you and I get to know that you have so much of land, right? Then we will try and we will speak to you and help you in trying to convert at least a part of that land into a small jungle, right? By jungle, I mean even if you convert a patch of land into a green oasis, that green oasis will become the home of birds, bees, insects, squirrels. It in itself it would become a point which will support life. Now, if you extrapolate that over the entire country, imagine how much more can be done, right? So that's the other big part, and I'm also talking to Worldwide Fund for Nature because they like the concept, and we had just started talking when this entire, like I've been saying, COVID-19 issue came up. Wildlife photography, because I love animals, I love nature. Whatever I'm doing, it's also about trying to do something for what you love so much, right? So, given the damage that has been done to our planet already, I don't believe that everything is the responsibility of the government. As citizens, it is also our responsibility to try and do whatever little we can, right? So, return to the jungles is one manifestation of the desire, and the other is the photography part. Because I also think about the legacy that I will leave behind, right? So digital photography is a technical subject, and photographing wild animals in wilderness is again a very challenging thing because it has its own risks, right? And if you really want to do well in this field, then you need to spend time, you need to spend money, and you need to have the patience to align yourself because this is when I go out, I'm not going to a zoo. I'm going to, it's like I was in the Serengeti National Park, which is one of the world's best known biodiversity hotspots in Tanzania, right? I had to align myself to nature. Some days it was raining heavily, our vehicle would get stuck, but I had to be patient, right? Because a lion would just not come and present himself in front of me so that I can photograph him. So I have a good network of friends in the Maasai tribe. So we are constantly talking over the walkie-talkie and we're trying to understand, get jungle intelligence. Okay, where did you see this tribe or where did you see that tribe? Accordingly, you try and reach that space. And it's difficult driving through very tough terrain. And when you reach there, you might not actually find the subject, but you have to be patient. And when the time comes, you have to be ready with your equipment. And to be ready with your equipment, you need to have the right equipment, but most importantly, you need to know how to use that equipment. Because digital photography and the equipment that we have today is so technical that if you do not understand the concepts well, the subject might be right in front of you, but you will not be able to take advantage of the situation. And then the subject would be gone and you would have lost that opportunity. So it's serious wildlife photography is not for the faint-hearted because there are times when some friend will say, you know what, next trip, I would also like to go with you. Couple of times people have, but they have left after, say, the first 1.5 days. Why? Because they realize it's not a walk in the park, it's not a party. It's not, I'm not going out there to have fun, I'm going out there to have some serious body of work done. And then over these almost 13 years, I have built strong relationships with some of the world's best known photographers, conservationists, researchers, and it's very enriching because there's so much that you can learn, and there are ways by which you can contribute. Like, to give you one very interesting story, when I was in Serengeti in the month of March, Serengeti in Tanzania, while doing the kind of search, Zubin, that I was telling you about, I came across these two lions, okay? And they are very iconic. They're two brothers, right? But they were believed to have died in September of 2019 because the researchers had not been able to find them. Now imagine I go from India and I find them. The moment I shared their photos, I started getting emails. I started getting text messages on Instagram. Where did you see them? When were you there? Etc. etc. And then I got to know the whole background of who these two lions are. More details about the Serengeti Lion Project, why these two lions are so important, their entire family history, so on. It's amazing. It's amazing.
All right, that was really good to hear, and I'm sure you've done a lot of good in terms of finding those two lions. And when you get such messages, and you get to know that you actually found those two lions who were believed to have died, I'm sure. I don't know how to describe that feeling really. I
Yeah,
was just trying to
exactly.
visualize that situation. If I would be in your place, how would I feel?
Yeah.
Um, all right. So this was a great discussion, Devashish. I was looking through some of the questions that came to me. Interestingly, my perspective is you actually answered the questions before before I could ask them. And people have asked about challenging experiences. You've already talked about that. But there's some theoretical aspects which I didn't want to get into. People were asking questions on leadership, um, and somehow
Can I
I
just
feel.
add something on the challenge?
Sure, sure. Please go ahead. Go ahead.
What I tell my folks whenever there is a challenging situation, or something that needs to be delivered at a very short notice. People don't like it when something comes at a very short notice, or something that requires a lot of background work to be done. I always tell people, imagine the joy when you complete this piece of work even before time, and you do it well, and the accolades that will come your way, the recognition and the learning, the amount of learning you got as a result. If the work was very simple and very easy to do, why would the company hire us? Might as well hire a lot of other people who do not have that experience. Why do we need people with 20 years, 21 years of experience to do easy thing? So I always tell my folks that when you get challenging pieces of work, thank your stars, because there are people who believe you are fit to do those challenging pieces of work.
All right. All right. So, Debashish, I would really like to thank you for this opportunity for us to have this discussion with you. Personally, I have learned so much. I would definitely love to keep in touch, learn more from you in the coming years. And I'm sure the audience also gained a lot out of it. We've just hit 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
We're a couple of minutes through that. So I want to thank the audience as well for being here, for listening to Debashish, from learning from him, asking those questions as well. And Debashish, thank you so much. Let us be associated in a way where we could probably collaborate or support each other in some
Yeah,
way or the other.
absolutely. Pleasure, pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Debashish, and goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Bye bye.